Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna try vlogging again this week. Last week was my first attempt and it was kind of fun to think about the kinds of things I wanted to share, or like what would I record and what would I kind of talk about. So last week was really about the book I was reading, A Song Below Water, and some of the other things that I did during the week. So why not do it again? So today I went to Barnes & Noble. So Why Read, which is a bookstagrammer, I don't know her name, posted that she wants to try and read together one of the duologies that N.K. Jemisin wrote. The first one is The Killing Moon. So I went to Barnes & Noble to try and find it, and they were out, but they did have the box set of the Broken Earth series. Oh, no, it was the other one. Can't remember which series, but I bought it. The three books that were in the trilogy. So I put the book, The Killing Moon, on hold at the library through the app since I couldn't find it. And then I spent some time at Michael's. They've got some awesome Halloween stuff out, and I put a bunch of stuff in my buggy, and then the line was so long that I just left it basically, and I'll go back and get it some other time, probably later this week, maybe during a daytime, like maybe Wednesday when I have a little bit of flexibility in my schedule. Because I still want this stuff. I also went to Walmart. I checked about Walmart to see if they had that book, and they didn't. Their book section's really not very great, but you know, it's Walmart. But I went for Pepsi, and I got the Pepsi. And some cushions. So I bought these cushion covers to go on my porch, and I needed to find some cheap pillows to fill them with rather than just getting the filler stuff. So I got some ugly, inexpensive, well, not really ugly, but kind of ugly pillows to go in there. So put a couple of those on my porch. So the book I'm going to start with for September, I'm finishing up The Secret History by Donna Tartt right now. I'm going to start September with Lovecraft Country, which means it also kicks off my Readers Imbibing Peril readathon. So that is just a reading event, September and October, focused on horror, mystery, thrillers. Really, you can count most anything that's like genre fiction. So it's a great time for that, September and October. And then November is the Anomaly Film Festival, which is going virtual this year. So that's a genre film festival. So it's going to be just, 3 months of awesome. So thanks for showing up, and we'll see what happens this week. Today's Sunday, August 30th. I'll check in again, probably not tomorrow, but maybe. Hey y'all. It is September 2nd, a Wednesday, and I have been working from home all morning. So I had 4 patients scheduled, and then I had a meeting at noon, and it is 1:45 right now. So I have paperwork for the patients I saw this week and some more, paperwork and things to do. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break and start my book and make another cup of coffee and just like not be on my computer for a few minutes. It started raining unexpectedly. Well, unexpectedly for me. Maybe it wasn't unexpected for anyone else. So that's always feels like a good time to kind of like be sitting inside where there's a window and be able to kind of like not be working for a few minutes. All right, it's still September 2nd, but now it's 11 o'clock at night. It's a Wednesday. So for the afternoon, I got some stuff done, but not a lot of stuff, but some stuff. I also got book mail, so that's always exciting. In the mail, I got Kindred, because I want to participate in I can't remember the exact name of it, but I think it's hosted through Bookstagram. It's the Octavia Butler slow read. So the goal is to get through her whole body of work in 2 years. So this is the first one. Discussion is, I believe, on the 27th of September, but it's closed, I think. Like it's full. But I'm going to try and read along with the group. So I read this a few years ago, and it was a library copy, so I bought one for myself. And then the other 2 books are for another buddy read that's being hosted by Kat over at Y Read. So she's also a bookstagrammer, and it's these 2 books. So The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun. So it's a duology by N.K. Jemisin. And so she posted on her Instagram that she wanted a buddy read it. And there's a group of us, and we're waiting for everybody to get the book, and then Kat's gonna post a schedule for doing that. So those are my buddy reads, I guess, for September. So I started Lovecraft Country. I've read a few hours on that. So I'm on page about 108. So I was planning on trying to read about 100 pages, and that was kind of in the middle of a section. So 107 starts a new section of the book, so that was a good place to stop. And basically in this first section of the book, our main character Atticus is a veteran who comes home to Chicago after being summoned by his father. His father has been really obsessed with figuring out the history of Atticus's mom, I believe. So Atticus's mother's lineage is unknown, except that her great grandmother was owned as a slave by this family, a family. And so when Atticus gets to Dad's house, Dad is gone. He's already gone off to try and follow some clues that he's in search of for this lineage. So Atticus, his Uncle George, and childhood friend Letitia are on the road through backwoods USA in 1954, and they get harassed several times by racists, and then they end up where they're headed, and weird things are happening. And I don't want to give it away, but the section kind of wraps up as if everything's cool. And then there's still 2/3 of the book left. So we know everything is indeed not cool. So there's one part on this book. There are a couple of quotes that I tagged, with little tabbies, but Lovecraft is a writer that I've only read maybe 1 or 2 short stories and didn't really love them. One of them's alluded to actually in this book. And he's kind of a notoriously a racist. So a couple of years ago, there was a Lovecraft award that readers petitioned or whatever wanted to be renamed into something else, particularly as the award was itself trying to recognize a more diverse and inclusive set of authors. So I think, except for those people who don't see racism anywhere, everybody kind of knows that Lovecraft was a racist. So there's a scene in the book where Atticus is kind of reminiscing about a situation that happened with his dad, because Atticus has always been a sci-fi lover, and the genre has mostly been dominated by white dudes, some of whom have some questionable viewpoints. So Dad kind of teases Atticus about that and really wants Atticus to give it up. And Atticus, as a young man, complained a lot, particularly to George. And I remember having a similar conversation with an uncle of mine who, felt like Good Times was cultural exploitation and really didn't want anybody to watch it. But so Atticus is talking to George. George is the uncle. Uncle George wasn't much help. It's not as if your father's wrong, he said one time when Atticus was complaining. But you love these stories, Atticus said. You love them as much as I do. I do love them, George agreed, but stories are like people. Loving them doesn't make them perfect. I do love them, George agreed, but stories are like people, Atticus. Loving them doesn't make them perfect. You try to cherish their virtues and overlook their flaws. The flaws are still there, though. But you don't get mad, not like Pop does. No, that's true. I don't get mad. Not at stories. They do disappoint me sometimes. He looked at the shelves. Sometimes they stab me in the heart. That kind of got me. So I put a little tabby on that one. Actually, the 3 tabs I have in here are places where books were personified. That's not what it's called, right? It's anthropomorphized if it's animals. Inanimate, is it personification of books as people? Those are the 3 tabs in here. So I'm really curious as to what happens next, because we know, when everything's wrapped up too early, that all hell is about to break loose. So I'm ready for the hell, y'all. And this, of course, is my first read for readers, Imbibing Peril 15, the reading challenge for Reading Scary. So, all right, I will check in sometime else this week, probably at least Friday. I am planning a crafting thing maybe, but I don't know if I'll include recording that at all, because that was a lot of editing last week when I showed decorating that binder. So we'll see. Well, I have a 7 o'clock commissioners meeting in the morning, so I will bid thee adieu. Hey, it is September 3rd at about 6:30 p.m. I feel exhausted. I think I'm feeling sad. I live in Rochester, and we just found out a couple days ago that there's a man, apparently his family called because he was acting bizarrely. I don't know exactly, and they called the police to come and help them, and he died in their interaction. He was killed, and the video was released a couple days ago, so it's hard to focus on things today. But I wanted to go ahead and do a little bit of vlogging because I said I was going to, and I'm trying to get better about doing it. And because I think that when you're sad, sometimes letting people know you're sad helps you feel better. I'm on a lot of task forces and boards and all kinds of things. Originally, there were a lot of opportunities for board participation because of COVID, and then because of the civil rights, the civil unrest that is happening right now because of really racism and police brutality. And one of the things I noticed today is that in the university we got, I think for me, because I'm across a couple different programs, emails from maybe 8 different people expressing concern and being appalled and all of those things, and offering support to staff and stuff. And that's great because, when the nation found out about, the world found out about George Floyd, there was much more kerfluffling, should we send it? Should we not? It took a while for people to draft their responses, and they're already written this time. And I just think about his poor family who called the police out to get help. And he didn't wake up. It's okay to be sad and angry. And we can be sad and angry together. See you tomorrow. Okay, we have made it all the way to Saturday. The days just keep coming. Let's see, last time I recorded, I think it was just some reading yesterday, after a day of work. So it was a regular Friday. My schedule changed a lot this week as the first week of September. So, and then with everything else that's been going on, it feels like it's been a long week. So I'm happy to have a long weekend because Monday is Labor Day. So yay, labor. I finished the book, Lovecraft Country. I actually want, if there were things that I missed because I haven't read a lot of Lovecraft, so if there were things that fans maybe would catch that I didn't catch. So I'm curious about that. So I can't guarantee that this is going to be a spoiler-free discussion of this book because, one, I'm not very good at figuring out what spoilers are, but two, because like, I want to talk about the ending a little bit, and I want people to tell me what they think about it too. So if you haven't read the book and you don't like to hear a lot about books, then maybe skip this one or come back to it later. Okay, so Lovecraft Country is, oh my gosh, what is it even about? It's kind of about multiple families living during 1950s Jim Crow America. So one of the families, I guess it's kind of like two black families. One is two adult brothers, one of whom publishes the Safe Negro Traveler's Guide, which is basically the green book that we really had in the U.S. that was published by American blacks as a resource guide for where they could go when they were traveling that was safe and places that were not safe. So we have that family, and there's a dad and two brothers. And then we have the sort of like other family who's related to them, and it's a woman and I think her daughter and grandchild, I think, but maybe I'm mixing that up a little bit. And that was one of my experiences of the book, is that so some of the sections of the book really kind of read as individual pieces. Like at one point I was thinking, oh, this book is set up kind of like a collection of short stories. And then in the question and answer at the end, Matt Ruff talks about how the story was actually pitched as a TV show series. And his idea was kind of similar to the X-Files, where this this recurring cast of characters has different adventures. And so his sections were kind of broken up where it kind of focuses on different members of this cast of the book having separate adventures, and then all comes together at the end. And you really get that feel as you're reading it. So there are these two families related to each other. And then there's this white family who there's lots of, it started many, many years ago, and there was a fire, and this one black family's trying to trace their roots, and so they go off to find some clues, and they run into this white family who used to own as a slave and then a servant, their great-great-great-grandmother. And so it's all sort of like mingled in together and kind of a little bit easy. If you hear that noise, that's my dog snuffling over there. Kind of sometimes hard to keep track of who's who and who the relationships are. But anyway, the magical part of it is that the white family is, like the legacy of the family is natural philosophy, which is kind of like witchcraft, but they don't call it that. That's the coarse way to talk about it. So the main guy of the white family is trying to get all of the covens across the U.S. to merge together, and he's using Atticus, who's one of the main black characters, because he's a descendant of, I don't know, somebody high up in the food chain of this sort of like brotherhood. And being set in the Jim Crow South, not even the South, being set during Jim Crow era, there's also a lot of monster interactions by way of the police or racist or Klan members, or like, your banker, that kind of stuff. Again, that I think Ruff put in intentionally, and he talks about that in the Q&A at the back of the book. So one of the things about the book is that the main white guy he's the villain, kind of, but he's not really. He's kind of is, but he's actually the only white guy who's nice to any of them. But he wants to take over, and he wants to be lead coven witch wizard guy. And he never really, we don't know what his plans are once he gets to be in charge. But we know he's seeking power and that he's also talented at his craft. And at the end, so here's a spoiler part, pause and stop if you don't want to hear this. At the end, the families, well, actually this little community in this black town succeed in kind of like banishing him from their area and other geographical areas of the country, and strip him of some of his power. And I get that, I think, but also why do they have to do that? Because they're not going after any other witches or taking away anybody else's power. And there's a ghost who is living amicably, unless with one of the other characters. So unless I missed something, it was kind of like he's supposed to be the villain, but the other detectives and everything who seemed more villainous were also taken care of in a different way. So I don't know. I am often like too soft-hearted at the end when there is a possible redemption arc, but he didn't even need the redemption arc. Like, he paid them money for things and back paid a couple of enslaved people had run away, and then they sent a note to their former owner saying how much they should get paid for their back pay, and he like paid that. I mean, I want to hear what other people think about that. People who have read this book. Like, am I just being sappy? And I'm not generally sappy, so like, don't get me started on Snape and Malfoy. Off with their heads. But I didn't think that Caleb is his name. And why are bad guys named Caleb so often? I didn't think he was that bad. Especially not to them. And they really could have probably used his help on other things. There's also a storyline with one of the sisters where she takes a potion so that she can be white. And that was an interesting storyline too. I'm interested to see if they use that in the TV show, because this is an HBO series that has started and hasn't completed yet. And the intention, according to my husband, is that we are going to watch it once it's all out. So I'm interested to see how they translate this. Again, it does read like a serial set with the same characters, and then like there's a season finale kind of feel to the end where everybody comes together and they share each part of their stories with each other, and then they all figure out what they're going to do next together. So I liked that. I liked the book. I also really liked the Q&A at the end. So his answers, I really appreciated, and his thoughtfulness of kind of how he came to the story. And, you know, he talked about Lovecraft, because Lovecraft is sort of a, like, everybody knows he was a racist, or every non-racist knows he was a racist. And Matt Ruff says, for all his faults, Lovecraft was tapping into these universal themes of horror that resonate even if you're not a white supremacist. I wish he'd been a better person or blessed with better mentors, but as a storyteller, I can still learn from him. And I thought that was a great sort of discussion about that. He kind of summarizes one of the stories that he thinks kind of epitomizes some of Lovecraft's worst traits. I mean, I give everything, everything I at least liked 4 stars, and this feels like a solid 4 stars. I'll probably be thinking about several pieces of it for a while. And I'll recommend it to other people who enjoy this kind of book. So there's some of the historical fiction parts, particularly around for Black Americans in the Jim Crow era in America, and the Green Book and the traveling and all of that. I really like those pieces of it. And then I love the paranormal and the spiritual aspects as well. So like ghosts and that kind of thing, and the magic kind of thrown in. So I'm not sure if it counts as magical realism. It maybe a historical fantasy would be a better genre kind of category, but it maybe crosses a couple of different things. I'm trying to think if there are any big horror elements to it. I don't think so. There are a couple of descriptions of bad dreams that are would be terrible bad dreams. But anyway, that is Lovecraft Country. And this is the vlog for the last week as I read it. And as all hell has broken loose here in Rochester. And maybe I'll keep doing these things. If I do, next week's book will probably be, oh, I don't have it. That little book. I forgot, but I'll put a thing. My next two books are going to be, I am doing a buddy read for The Killing Moon with Kat from Y Read, and the first book discussion is on the 10th for the first 10 chapters of the book. So I have to have that read this week. And then there's a book, I wish I could remember what it's called. I'll try and put it around here somewhere, that I want to read because a friend of mine wants to borrow it so that he can read it. So I kind of want to just read that one. It's kind of small. So I'll probably start that one tomorrow and be done with it either tomorrow or Monday, unless it's terrible. That's pretty much it. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.